Have you ever looked at some leaders or some companies and just wondered, why do they inspire such incredible loyalty? While others, who seem to have all the same resources, just fall flat? Well, in his amazing book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek says the answer isn't in what you do, but in one single powerful question.
So to get our heads around this, let's actually rewind the clock way back to the early 1900s. There was this intense race going on to be the first to achieve powered flight. But the story of who won, and more importantly, why they won, is a fascinating puzzle that tells us everything about what really drives success.
So you had two main players in this race. On one side, you've got Samuel Pierpont Langley, and on the other, you've got two brothers from Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. Now, if you were a betting person back then and you just looked at this matchup on paper, the winner would have seemed like a total no-brainer. I mean, Langley had everything. He had a massive $50,000 grant from the War Department, which back then was an absolute fortune. He was super respected, had a position at Harvard, and his address book was a who's who of the most brilliant minds of the day. He had the best resources, the best talent. He had what looked like the perfect recipe for success.
And then you have the Wright brothers. They had, well, basically none of that. No funding. They paid for the whole thing with the profits from their little bicycle shop. Neither brother even went to college, and their team, it was just a small band of friends, all driven by this shared passion. They were the ultimate underdogs.
So how did this story end? Well, on December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers took to the skies. And Langley, the guy with all the money and the fancy connections, he quit. The moment he heard that the Wrights had succeeded, he just gave up. You see, he wasn't in it for the cause, he was in it for the glory. The real difference between them wasn't their resources, it was their reason for trying.
The answer to how the Wright brothers pulled it off, where Langley failed, lies in this incredibly simple but profound framework that Simon Sinek calls the Golden Circle. It's a model that explains exactly why some leaders and some organizations can inspire us, where so many others just don't.
So the model has three layers, and Sinek's core idea is this. Most people and most companies communicate from the outside in. They go from what to why. But the truly inspiring leaders, everyone from Apple to Martin Luther King Jr., they do the complete opposite. They think, they act, and they communicate from the inside out.
Let's break this down. Every single organization on the planet knows what they do. The products they sell, the services they offer, some of them know how they do it, their special process or their unique selling proposition, but very, very few can clearly articulate why they do what they do. And when Sinek says why, he doesn't mean to make a profit. That's just a result. The why is your purpose, your cause, your belief. It's the real reason you even exist. And this is the most important point of all. The Wright brothers were driven by a why, this deep, powerful belief that if they could figure out this flying machine, it would change the entire course of the world. Langley, on the other hand, was just driven by the what. He wanted to get rich and famous. The Wrights' purpose inspired their team to work with blood, sweat, and tears. Langley's team, they just worked for a paycheck.
But here's where it gets really, really cool. The power of the Golden Circle isn't just some clever idea or a good marketing tactic. It's actually rooted in the biology of the human brain.
So it turns out the Golden Circle maps almost perfectly onto our brain. Your what, all the facts and figures, that corresponds to your neocortex. That's the rational part, the part that handles language. But your how and your why, they correspond to the limbic system, and that's the part that's responsible for all our feelings, like trust and loyalty, and get this, all of our decision-making.
And here's the kicker. The limbic brain, the part that makes all the decisions, has no capacity for language. This is the biological reason for gut feelings. It's why you can show someone all the data, all the features, and they can look at it all and say, I get all the facts, but it just doesn't feel right. When we communicate from the outside in, we're talking to the analytical part of the brain. But when you start with why, you're speaking directly to the decision maker.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work in the real world? Well, Sinek offers a really simple way to filter your decisions with clarity. He calls it the Celery Test.
So imagine you're at the grocery store. One person gives you advice and says you absolutely need M&Ms. Someone else says, no, you need cookies. And a third person insists you need celery. If you listen to all of them, you come home with this random pile of stuff. Your shopping cart just makes no sense.
But what if you start with why? Let's say your purpose is to only consume things that are healthy and natural. Well, suddenly the decision becomes crystal clear. Does celery fit? Yep. Do M&Ms and cookies fit? Absolutely not.
Your why becomes this incredible filter. It gives you a clear reason to say yes to some things and no to others.
So having a clear why gives you a path forward. But that raises a really important question. What happens when that why starts to get fuzzy? What happens when a great organization loses touch with why it started in the first place?
Sinek calls this the split. It's that moment, that dangerous moment, when a company's focus starts to shift. The what, the metrics, the revenue, the growth charts, it all starts to get louder than the original why. And that founding passion, it starts to fade away.
A classic example of this is Walmart. Sam Walton started with such a powerful why, to serve people and to make their lives better. But after he passed away, the company's focus changed. That amazing why was replaced by a relentless focus on the what, low prices, at any and all costs. And that split from their original purpose really hurt the company's reputation and started to eat away at the incredible loyalty Sam Walton had built.
So the ultimate lesson here is pretty simple. Your why can't just be where you start. It has to be the thing you always come back to, the lens you look through for every decision, every action, and every single thing you communicate.
And this brings us to one last, really powerful idea. When you operate from your why, your whole idea of competition changes. You stop looking over your shoulder at what everyone else is doing. Your only real competition becomes yourself. How can we be better at our cause today than we were yesterday?
At the end of the day, Sinek's work isn't just explaining how great leaders inspire people. It's a challenge, really. It asks us to look inward. Whether it's for your company, your career, or just your life, the most important question you can ever answer is the one that fuels everything else. Thanks for watching.